The topic for today is AI cage match, Google Gemini versus Microsoft Copilot. And today I am joined by my colleague, Nathan Caldwell from our marketing team. Nathan, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks so much. I'm ready to fight.
Okay. All right, let's get to it. I am
Let's
as
get
well.
bloody.
We've got a really good webinar planned for you guys where we're going to dig into the all the details around Google Gemini and how it compares to Microsoft Copilot. We've produced a lot of content in the past couple months around Microsoft Copilot. I would say in general, we're a Microsoft shop. I mean, most of our clients do use Microsoft 365 as their main collaboration and productivity platform. But we try to make sure we're expert in all things technology, and we've done a bunch of homework and research and piloting of Google Gemini recently, and so we thought we would be a good time to share our findings with you and explore what we're seeing from one of the other AI platforms that is making good headway in the marketplace. So before we get into that, though, we like to spend just 2 minutes whenever we do an event of any kind and just share a little bit about who we are. So SnapTech IT, we are a cybersecurity first managed IT service provider with operations in Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, and San Francisco, California. And we believe technology should solve problems, not create them. But what we often see is we see organizations that are struggling with technology. Their employees are frustrated, or they're not having the levels of productivity they want. They might even be suffering downtime. Sometimes organizations are suffering because their IT team is overwhelmed, or they're working with a provider that's not responsive, or they're simply losing sleep because the cybersecurity issues that organizations face are overwhelming them. And what we do when we bring on a new client is we implement our proven process. And this means that that client is now going to have a technology plan. They're going to have a predictable IT roadmap and an IT budget. We're going to, fix their technology problems and make sure that their workforce can work from anywhere securely. And then when things break in the technology world. It's just a given. We try to prevent it. We try to prevent it with proactive maintenance. But when things do break or people need support, we're there to provide fast, friendly support. And we're, of course, here to provide every organization we work with the peace of mind that they're doing the absolute utmost on the cybersecurity front that their budget can provide. We work with clients in two different ways. If you're a smaller company and there's nobody in your organization that is in the IT team if you don't have IT, we'll do it all for you. And we call that fully managed IT. If you're a larger organization and you have an IT manager or an IT director or a full IT team, we do co-managed IT. And that's where we figure out what aspects of your IT or cybersecurity workflows you want to outsource to a provider like us. And we figure out those different swim lanes, and then we team up together to deliver the best outcome for your organization. So that's it about SnapTech, who we are.
Just one more quick thing about SnapTech. One of the first ways that SnapTech IT typically engages with a client is through an IT discovery and cyber risk assessment. And so it takes a look at everything you've got going on and make sure that we're starting from a place of knowing just how secure are you? How up to date is your tech? Are there problems existing in your environment? And so you get that whole exploration, you get a very valuable report out of that, and it allows you to also determine, is my current IT provider even doing a good job of keeping me secure, of keeping us up to date with what we need in order to be successful? Because we know that every company right now is an IT company. Like your company is gonna fall apart. You're not gonna be able to do effective business if your IT is failing. And so that gets you to a level place of knowing just exactly how you stand, where the shortcomings are, and then can build a plan and move forward from there. So just want to add that in quick, Ted.
Yeah, and it's really the next step. If you're new to us and you want to engage on that basis, please reach out to us, and we'll have some calls to action at the end of today's webinar. But that's all we wanted to say about us. The rest of today is really all about AI and comparing and contrasting how Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, where do they overlap? Where do they stand out? What are some of the unique things you can do with these various AI platforms? And then we're gonna provide, kind of firsthand demo experience. We're actually not gonna do a live demo today. We sometimes Nathan and I pray to the demo gods, but not today. We just figured like uh, demonstrating AI across two different platforms in one webinar was a little bit ambitious. So today we're gonna share our demos. We're gonna share screenshots of our demos and talk you through, how these different tools behave. But we have a lot of detail and hands-on knowledge and experience there, and we'll share that firsthand. We're gonna be
Yeah,
looking at
we just didn't want to all the screen swapping back and forth between the demos. It would have wasted too much time. So, but we did all the tasks, and we will show you step by step just how it shows up, how you can do it, and you'll come away just knowing not only the comparison game, but also if you were to start with Google Gemini today, if you were going to start with Microsoft Copilot today, you're going to have some skills in your hands today on exactly how to go about doing some of these things.
Absolutely. And so what we're going to look at in particular is we're going to look specifically about how these AI tools fit in and improve the collaboration and productivity platforms that each company has, Google and Microsoft. And we're going to look at meetings. How does AI help us with meetings today? What are some of the cool things you can do with meetings, and how do you make them better? We're going to look at how presentations get made, whether you're using Microsoft PowerPoint or you're using Google Slides. How does AI make it better? And then we're going to look at communication, specifically email communication, and how AI is transforming how business users communicate. So let's get into it a little further. We're going to start out with a quick overview of Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, just so we're grounded and we have that understanding. I do encourage you to ask questions as we go along. Nathan's going to be monitoring the Q&A log. Um, you know, and Nathan and I are just going to keep tag teaming as we go here. I really like this slide. I think it really helps kind of set the stage for when we're talking about Microsoft Copilot. So first of all, what is Microsoft Copilot? Microsoft Copilot is an add-on that you can add on to your Microsoft 365 commercial deployment. So Microsoft 365 is email, calendar, Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and a host of other applications from Microsoft that all run from the cloud and are synced up and empower your local machine as well. And then what Copilot is it's an AI tool that can be added on to your organization. You can add it on for a handful of users, or you can turn it on for everybody. It costs extra, and Copilot leverages generative AI, generative artificial intelligence. So it allows you to write emails, create PowerPoints from scratch, transcribe and understand meetings, and reorganize meetings into meeting notes and action items, all those sorts of things. So it's your Copilot, it's the thing that can help you be your active assistant in all of these software applications to get more done. Now, what makes Copilot fairly unique is that Microsoft has made it so that you can run these AI tools right inside the applications we all know and love and have been using for decades. Applications like Outlook or Excel or PowerPoint or Teams or Word. So the AI functionality is actually functioning right inside the app. You don't need to be toggling back and forth between a web browser window and another application and pasting back into Word or anything like that. It actually works right inside the application. I'm sure everybody who's joined today's call has used ChatGPT. ChatGPT is OpenAI's commercial offering. Um, and we're all familiar with that, like using an AI tool in a browser, right? So ChatGPT is one of the most rapidly adopted technologies in the history of the world. But the reality is every single software tool we have is being enhanced with AI. And Microsoft has a commanding lead in leveraging their partnership with OpenAI to incorporate the OpenAI large language models and generative AI technology into the Microsoft stack. So what makes Microsoft's approach with AI quite unique is that the AI enhances uh, these apps we already know. And then the other element is what's called the Microsoft Graph and grounding. So all the data unique to your organization, the email messages, calendar invites, Teams chats, recorded meetings, documents you have in OneDrive and SharePoint, all of that content makes up your organization's Microsoft Graph. And what Microsoft really realized in the early days of after the launch of ChatGPT is that users were being very irresponsible with their corporate content in leveraging AI tools. Businesses and organizations need to be super responsible with their private client information, their trade secrets, their intellectual property, and their privacy, frankly. And so what Microsoft does is it Copilot kind of sits there in the middle, and it can index and leverage everything that's in your Microsoft graph, but it's grounded. And grounded means that it doesn't get incorporated into the large language model um, out in the cloud. So it keeps it private to your environment. But then when you're using Copilot, you can basically do prompts or questions against the model or against the tool that leverage content from the out in the web, but also content from inside your organization. Leverage files you have in OneDrive, leverage content you have in your email. So that's really what makes Copilot's deployment architecture pretty unique and gives it some very unique advantages as a product. So Nathan, why don't we just give a quick thumbnail sketch around licensing, and then we'll get into giving an overview of Google Gemini.
Yeah, real fast. There are some versions of Copilot that are free that you can get. You can start using Copilot itself. So you'd compare it to kind of your experience if you use ChatGPT. It looks like that. It's the prompt window that looks a lot like ChatGPT. I don't know how else to describe it. That's what it looks like, and that's what you get, and it's free. You can use that. There's also Copilot Chat. That's also free. And there's a few features down there that we're showing. But what we're showing you today is really as we get into like Copilot Pro and Copilot for Microsoft 365. So the features, what we're able to do today, what we're showing you is under that Copilot for Microsoft 365. And the way that looks is you can go to the Copilot GPT, that window where you prompt it, but it's also baked into all of your Microsoft apps. And so you'll see the little Copilot logo there in Outlook or PowerPoint or wherever you're working. So you can wake it up and say, hey, I need some help right now. And so this is a little outline of some of the features that are available, what's included but metered. You can see those orange triangles that restrict you from using it fully. But that's what you get. And, the $30 per person per month underneath the 365 Copilot version, I mean, you're going to see how much time it saves you to get from 0 to like 80% done, 75% done. That's going to save you a lot more than $30 a month in hourly wages or salary or just productivity. So it's definitely worthwhile, but you got to pick the right license for you. Back to you, Ted.
Okay, great. And so let's transition and now talk about Google Gemini and what Google Gemini is. At the highest level, Google Gemini is Google's brand name for their AI technology and product. And just like with Microsoft, you have Google Gemini is a standalone experience that you can go do, whether you're a licensed user of a Google product, but it's also the name of the tool and the technology that enhances the AI experience you get when you use the rest of the Google applications. So I think a good starting point is to understand what Google Workspaces is. Google Workspace is Google's competitive product to Microsoft 365. It is an online collaboration and productivity platform used by businesses, educational institutions, and other organizations. And it's very robust. It's a little hard. It's a little hard to find like accurate market share data, but in general, I think Microsoft has tremendous market share with organizations that have been around a long time, and larger institutions, enterprises, schools and governments. And then what you see is that Google Workspace is often adopted by younger companies, more innovative companies, maybe companies that are a little bit more thrifty on their budget, or maybe they think differently about how they actually want to go solve these problems of building a spreadsheet or writing a document or building a PowerPoint presentation or storing files. So it's a little hard to parse the market share data, but in general, Microsoft has more market share than Google in this space and has been doing the office productivity game for a lot longer than Google. But the Google Workspace platform is incredibly robust. You've got Gmail, you've got Meet for meetings, you've got chat for real-time chat inside the organization, you've got calendaring, you've got Google Drive to store your files in the cloud and locally, and then you have the productivity apps. You've got Docs for word processing, Sheets for spreadsheets, Slides for presentations, Forms, Sites, Keep for note-taking, and then there's a host of other things included. But that's Google Workspace, just so we're on the same page. And then how does Gemini fit in? Well, the interesting thing is that, Google has been a big player in the AI space, but they kind of kept it on the back burner, to be honest. But 3 years ago, when OpenAI introduced ChatGPT, it kind of changed everything in their business. It was really like a code red moment for them, where they're like, wow, AI is going to take off like a rocket ship. We've got to like get our A game in place. And so, Gemini, it used to be called Bard. Gemini is a far better name. Anyway, they check that one off the list. But Gemini is their premier offering for AI. And in January of this year, Google made a big decision to incorporate Gemini into most of their commercial Google Workspace plans. And I'll get into that a little bit in a moment. But it's basically virtually everything other than the absolute starter plan now comes with Gemini without any extra charge. So this is a little bit of an eye chart, but let me get us oriented a little bit on this. So first of all, we're going to kind of focus on the Google Workspace plans that are for companies and organizations that have 1 to 300 users. So you'd call that kind of the small to medium business space. Google has other workspace plans for educational institutions and enterprises. So we're just not going to get into that today, but the core theme of Gemini being included applies to the educational packages and to the enterprise packages as well. But what you see in the, say, SMB, small and medium business commercial packages is there's 3 tiers. There's starter, there's standard, and there's plus. And these packages cost, if you sign an annual agreement, they cost, $7 per user per month, or 14 or 22. So that's just to give you a rough sense of what Google charges an organization to buy Google Workspace. And now Gemini is included at the standard and plus tiers. So everywhere where you see a check mark, that means that Google Gemini functions with that particular product bundle. So what you see is they're making a pretty clear distinction. While they have a starter plan, they really want you to start out with standard. I think that's the pretty obvious thing. But what you see is that Gemini works in chat and Meet and Docs and Sheets and Slides and Drive for all of those plans. And then the Google Gemini app, much like ChatGPT, its core interface is a web browser. You go to gemini.google.com, and that's where you interact with it. Now, if you're on the starter plan, you can use it, and some of the core features are there. But it's just like with Microsoft Copilot Chat, there's rate limits and functional limitations at the freemium or lower tiers. And so you see that Gemini Advanced, for example, which is one of the advanced models, is not available for starter. Um, you can't edit and run code. There's rate limits on uploading files and doing deep research and that sort of thing. So there's certain things you can do, but the most complete
Ted, we have
I-
you possibly breaking up a little bit here. All right, so I'm going to take back control here. And so we should be good now. You should be seeing that. All right, so Ted will get reconnected and we'll jump right back in. But thankfully, we did this with screenshots instead of demos in order to show you guys exactly what's going on instead of relying on the demos to be operating fully. And as you can see, you can go on in and prompt Google Gemini with what you're looking for. What you want to pay attention to is that right now, Google Gemini also in that top left, there's a drop-down menu underneath Gemini Advanced. There's the drop-down to be able to choose which version or which focus through Gemini that you're using. And so you want to pay attention to that. If you've been using ChatGPT, you should already be familiar with this type of thing where, you know, different versions of ChatGPT lend itself to creating different things at a different level. So let's go ahead and take a look at this here. So getting started with Gemini, you're going to be in the AI Studio, creating a new chat. And as you notice, he's chosen Gemini 2.0 Pro Preview. All right, so right into the demos, here we go. We're taking a look at meetings first. So we're going to be comparing what you can do with Gemini versus what you can do with Copilot as far as meetings go. And so remember, you're going to have Google Meet. Under Gemini, we're going to be having Microsoft Teams when we take a look at Copilot. But let's take a look at what's going on here with Google Gemini. We want to look at recording that meeting, transcribing it, and then also generating content out of that meeting. So whether it's a to-do list, whether it's a summary or report from that meeting. So let's take a look at Ted here. He goes in and he creates the meeting and then he's recording the meeting. You're going to want to make sure that you are selecting that you have captions in the recording and starting a transcript coming out of that meeting. And so you can see that he has this enabled to create a new document in the drive of Ted Halsey, and then that document will be shared with the meeting host and the person who turned on notes. So there are those different settings that you can have there. And here we have the notes coming to him. It's coming from Gemini and it's going to Ted. So he just goes back when it's all done, it's all transcribed. There it is in his Gmail. He can access it. Super slick, super simple. As you can see, it tells you what it is. The notes contain a summary and detailed recap, transcript, and recording. It'll be linked in the notes when ready. Here's the notes, and it comes out pretty good. And as you can see, several key initiatives, resolving a login issue, reviewing and editing my blog, Windows 10 upgrade. It has the initial paragraph summary, then it has the bulleted list, and so it's pretty effective at getting those notes out to you. What's really cool too is that it has the timestamp and those are hyperlinked so you can get to those different parts of the video in case you want to see it more fully and in the context of what's going on in the meeting space in the video at that point. All right, so then it gives you suggested next steps. And I really love too that it gives you some check mark boxes so that you can check those off and make sure that you're taking those next steps. All right, so that's a little bit about the Gemini and what it can do in meetings. Again, record the meeting, pull a transcription, create some notes, bulleted list, check boxes so that you can go through those different things. All right, let's hop over and take a look at Copilot meetings and what it can do. Now, I'm doing a slight variation on that demo that we just saw with with Google Gemini. With Google Gemini, we're getting to the end of the meeting stuff and the transcription and just generating some notes and some to-do items. What we're going to do is take it one step further and do a second half of an assignment here when it comes to Copilot meetings, because we're going to record a meeting, we're going to transcribe that meeting, but then take that transcription, put it into Word, and let Copilot generate a blog out of it. And so this is a very effective way for you to create content in the voice of your experts at your company, where this is exactly what I do. With our executives, I book a 15-minute call, we start it, I record it, I hit transcribe, all in Copilot and in Teams, and then I'm asking the executives, here's one question, just talk about it. And then we're gonna let the AI do the summarizing, and then I'm gonna generate a blog out of that. And so let's show you just exactly how we do this. So we go ahead and we get the meeting scheduled. We make sure that it's set up for recording that meeting. And then what you can see is after the meeting is done in Teams, it's going to generate a chat. And in that chat, you can see that it's going to have the recap, it's going to have access to the recording and access to the transcription. If you look right in the middle there, you can see that word transcript. And so from there, what we have is it takes us into a separate window where we have the recording, we have the transcription, and then there's the ability to also download the entire transcription from Teams right here. And so let's take a look at that. Now, I work on a Mac, and so I want to show you a problem I encountered that was very difficult to figure out. It was so frustrating. Over and over and over, I would get to this stage of having the transcript generated and this awesome, beautiful little download transcript button, and I would click it, and then nothing would happen, and I wouldn't be able to find it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll highlight it, I'll copy and paste this transcript over into Word. But I would lose a ton of the copy with the copy and paste. It was very disjointed, it was very broken. And so it wasn't until I figured out this. In the settings of Microsoft Teams, underneath files and links, make sure that under downloads, you are asking it to always ask to save the downloaded file. Turn that on, because what'll happen is then it'll prompt a little request that says, do you want to save this? And then you get to pick where it is saved, and it gets moved to that location so you can get that transcript. So from there, you'd see the little download window pop up in the top right. You'll be able to find it. You won't lose it, and you won't be frustrated like I was for a long time. All right, so the next thing to take a look at is, well, what does this do for you? It gives you that transcript. When you download it, it'll be in a Word file. And then down here to the right, you can see I clicked the Copilot button and I typed out my prompt. And my prompt is really simple. It just says, please create a 500-word blog about how MDR reduces cyber insurance costs and risks using the information from this transcript. Keep Carl Bickmore's voice. Now, I said that because I want it to sound like it's coming from Carl, that he is the author, because he was the one who spoke all about this in this video interview from the meeting that I had with him. All right, so from there, it generates a blog, but it's still, that blog is in the Copilot window. I noticed that it was just all text, no headings. Well, we want, as he's bringing up different points, we want different headings so that it facilitates an easy read for our readers. And so I went back in and I said, please add effective headings to this blog that have it perform better for keywords and SEO. It helps our readers so much more. It helps them get to the content that they're looking for. So from there, it does that. It gives me the headings I want. I take it, I copy it out of the Copilot window, throw it into a new Word document, just so that it's nice and clean. And from there, I can begin my editing process. I can rely on Grammarly. I can rely on the grammar police, Ted Halsey. I don't know if you know this, but he has his sheriff's badge from the Grammar Police Academy. And I'm constantly being thrown in jail for it because I grew up in the Canadian school system. And so our grammar is a little bit different than Americans. But then on top of it all, I wasn't an expert in it anyway. I didn't do too great with it in school. But anyway, that being said, you get it into the Word doc, you get the editing done, and then you take it from there and publish it as a blog. Also, very important. While we do suggest you use AI to help you in your blogging process, do not rely on AI to sound just like you. Even though I said keep Carl Bickmore's voice, it still says something at the beginning. If you can zoom your focus in, it says, in today's digital landscape, the risk of cybersecurity incidents is higher than ever. Oh, that sounds terrible. Like it turns me off right away. It feels like I'm not talking to a person, I'm talking to an AI robot. So you want to edit that stuff out. You want to talk to people like people, get that edited, get your voice back in there. All right, Ted's back with us. Let's head back to you. We're talking about presentations and we're looking at Google Gemini and what it can do to go from an outline to a slide deck.
Okay, well, just let's go to the first slide. Let me just make kind of a high level introductory remark. I mean, this is an area where Google just is nowhere near as good as Microsoft. Microsoft, when Nathan's going to share this in a moment when we talk about how Copilot works, but Copilot can basically create PowerPoints from scratch and get you to 80% routinely. I mean, like I was sharing with Nathan as we were prepping for this, like I've probably prompted Copilot maybe 75, maybe 100 times or something in the past, 6 to 7 months. And 80% of the time, it gets me 80% of where I need to be in creating a PowerPoint. When you're using Google Gemini as your sidekick or assistant inside Google Slides, it's nowhere near as good. That capability just doesn't exist today. You can't just say, hey, create a presentation from scratch for me on this subject. It just doesn't work that way. But what it can do is one slide at a time, it can create content for you. So maybe this is a more responsible way to do presentations. I'm not sure, but in any event, it's not going to be as like like a productivity revolution in your workflows just yet if you're using Google Slides. But right here on this one, I said, like I'm in New York. I'm taking my son on his spring break trip this week, and I thought, oh, I'm thinking a lot about New York and everything else, so I'm just going to like use that as a subject to prompt to create this PowerPoint. And I said here, like, okay, we're going to do, create a slide for me on a guided tour of the Statue of Liberty. If you go to the next slide, you'll see it created a slide for me, and it created this pretty weird image. And I'm not going to hold this against Google, because you'll see the exact same thing in Microsoft with Copilot, that you'll occasionally get the odd image. The reality is this is part of AI today, is that prompting is all about pushing and pulling and refining and getting something where you want it to be, but hopefully 80% of the time it's getting you 80% there. And that's what we're finding pretty routinely. So on this one, I said, okay, well, that's not the image I'm looking for. Yes, I see a tour guide. Yes, I see the Statue of Liberty, but no, I don't need 5 images. So I then prompted it to refine that image and give me a more iconic image of the Statue of Liberty. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see what it produced.
Oh,
And so that's
so
what
iconic.
that's what I'm looking for. Is there's the iconic image of the Statue of Liberty I want in my presentation. And then the general observation I would give is that Google Slides really doesn't hold a candle to Microsoft in terms of this ability to create a PowerPoint from scratch. On the other hand, it's really good. Like the bullets you get and the content you get is very on point. Slide by slide, it can be super powerful and help you power through and create a presentation. And or if you have a presentation and you're looking to simply insert some good AI generated art and images, it's also very effective at doing that. Or if you have a PowerPoint presentation where it's already 80% complete, but you want to add in 5 or 6 slides to the deck, this is a great approach to go. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you.
It's also good for those who want like a little more control over the output. If you're going one slide at a time, you can be a little more specific about exactly what you want to share at that point in the presentation, rather than Microsoft's approach, which is like one prompt, step back, you get 20 slides. And so it just depends on where you're at. But I really love the dark clouds around the Statue of Liberty. It gives me a very Ghostbusters Part 2 feel, you know? So anyway,
I went with
continuing
I
on.
have a sunnier outlook on things, but I mean, here's another prompt I did, which is, I took the Statue of Liberty and I said, hey, actually give me a version with a real tour guide, and there you have it. Again, like that's what I asked for. And if I were creating, if the deck was about like guided tours of New York City, then I would have a lot more imagery that's like this. And so that's very easy to do. And then maybe just go to the next slide. And I'm just trying to remember. Oh, and this is just another example. Um, one thing to keep in mind is um, it's kind of interesting. Like when you use Copilot to create a PowerPoint, its first go at it will use stock photography. Okay. Presumably unlicensed stock photography, or presumably stock photography Microsoft has licensed. Google, when you ask it to create a slide the first time, very much like the first photo it gives you looks like licensed photography, but every additional thing you add is a created image. And what Google Gemini is actually really good at is creating photorealistic renderings that are unique, that they're not stock photography. And so this is a photorealistic rendering of the statue of George Washington at that iconic building in the Federal Building in Wall Street. And so again, I think this is an area where Google Gemini excels above Microsoft in generating images that are photorealistic, but AI generated. So it's just kind of
Which
like
is
a very,
so super helpful, especially when you're trying to create presentations that don't cross the line of licensing, right? Like you run into that problem so much. When I'm speaking at different conferences, they make you sign off saying like, I have the rights to all of my images, all of my slideware. And so if you're just pulling stuff from the internet or stock photos and you don't have that right, then you're in a tough spot for finding images that actually work for what you want to show.
yeah. And and I think when you're using Microsoft to create images, you often get you don't it's they're not it's not as good. So
Yeah, and I'll
I'm
show
just
you that when you come to my stuff.
yeah, and so let's keep trucking because I'm just worried about our time. Our technical
Yeah.
challenges set us back a little ways. So Nathan, you go
All
next
right.
and talk.
So hopping into PowerPoint, I'm sure that in our audience, people are more familiar with PowerPoint than they are with Google Slides. So I don't have to do much to tell you about PowerPoint, but just showing you that the Copilot button shows up right there. You can see it in the top left, right above the slide if you want to create the presentation. It's also in the top right along the menu if you want to invoke it. But here's what I told it to do. And Ted, hang on while I get ready for this, okay? I asked Copilot to put together a presentation about the rise of Dolly Parton as a country music living legend and global icon of kindness. Include some history of the tabloids being mean to her earlier in her career and how she rose above that cruelty. So that's what I asked Copilot to do, and here's what Copilot did. Cool thing about Copilot, it gives you a slide outline before it generates the slide. So you can have that tweaking capability. Remember what we saw with Gemini? It's one slide at a time, and so you have that control specifically over what comes next. You can have some of that control with PowerPoint, with Copilot and PowerPoint, but it happens here at this stage, in the outline stage, where you can tweak it, you can edit those words, you can delete some of those bullet points, you can see how the top one, the early life and musical beginnings, it's highlighted as a chunk. You can actually slide that around and move it to different parts of the presentation. So there's some flexibility even before the slides are generated for you. Then I just went ahead and said, okay, that I'm going to be good with that outline. So I hit the generate slides button, and this is what it did for me. Now, the first couple of images I kind of liked. I really liked the early life, showing the one room shack the cabin that she kind of grew up in. That's not the actual one. I've been to Dollywood, drinking from my Dollywood coffee cup today. And they have a replica of the one room cabin that she grew up in, but they're doing all right. They kind of got the genre, the feel of it going on. But then you get down into the some of these images. I don't know, there's a weird whistle with a magnifying glass that PowerPoint wants you to be using. And then also, I want to highlight this. That is not Dolly Parton. Like, not even close. Like, I don't know who that lady is, but I don't want that image. And so then I asked Copilot to do a little more digging. I said, hey, Copilot, find a public use image and royalty-free image of Dolly Parton. What I wanted it to do is actually find this image. Like, that image is in the free domain right now that I have on my t-shirt. And so it suggested going to Pixabay. And so I'm like, oh, it's telling me that there's a collection of free Dolly Parton images. Well, let's check that out, though. Go over here. Here are the 50 free images of Dolly Parton. It's like furniture dollies, Dolly the cloned sheep, an actual doll. So I'm showing you this, not because I want to rag on Copilot in PowerPoint, but it's not strong for image creation. It's not strong for helping you find images that you can use in your presentation, at least with this. So I wanted to have a little bit of fun with that, but then I did another one, okay? Where, to be fair, Copilot does have a really cool feature where you can actually pull, instead of just prompting it with a little paragraph about what you want it to present on, you can actually go to documents and have it review those documents and create a presentation from that. And so earlier on in this presentation, I showed you how I recorded a meeting with Carl Bickmore, CEO of SnapTech. He talked all about MDR, and I had that all drafted up as that transcript. And then remember, I had Copilot do a blog out of it. So what I did is I had Copilot in PowerPoint reference that blog. That's the document right there, titled Rough Draft How ... how MDR reduces cyber insurance costs and risks. And so from there, it generated a big PowerPoint presentation. And guess what? Because it's not about a public figure, a specific person, it actually went through and generated and found some pretty cool imagery that does go along with MDR, cyber insurance, cyber security looking type stuff. And so I feel like it did a much better job this time finding those images rather than, having their Microsoft having their hands tied behind their back and not being able to get me actual photos of Dolly Parton or of specific tabloids that she was in and headlines that were treating her poorly back in the day. So just wanted to share that. But as you can see, like Ted pointed out, Google, you're going one slide at a time. Over here with Copilot, one prompt, approve the outline, boom, you get 20 slides in your presentation. So it gets you a lot further along the racetrack down to the finish line a lot faster. And then you go back and tweak and massage and do what you want. another quick thing is in Copilot, in PowerPoint, you notice in the top right underneath the share button, there's the designer word, there's the Copilot word. Designer has been around a long time. It helps give you a variety of choices for the design of your slide. And recently, Microsoft has worked hard to bring Copilot AI and designer together. So it's not just suggested slide design, it's also AI suggested slide design. And so you're getting a little more power out of that feature. It's something to play around with and give yourself additional options. If you get to a slide where you're like, I don't particularly like this, but I don't know where to start to redesign it, hit that designer button. It'll give you some choices, and then you can pick one of those choices from there. So Ted, all right, back to you. Rapid email creation. You know, we're running out of time because we are showing so much here in this
Yeah, so
demo,
let's keep
but
going.
I think we can go fast here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gemini is your assistant, email assistant in email. Copilot's very similar. Right down there at the lower at the bottom of the screen, you see a little pen, edit pen with the little Gemini star. You click on that, you go to the next slide, and you give it a prompt. You say, write me an email. And in this one, it's like, hey, write our clients about the growing risks of phishing attacks using Dropbox links and what to do about it. You create, and then it creates an email for you. Now, this is a pretty good email. This is a topic we know a lot about, so I'm able to audit it and confirm that the information is accurate. The challenge is that Gemini doesn't give as rich of experience as Copilot with Outlook. So if you go to the next slide, literally the only kind of pushing and pulling you can do on the slide is to formalize it, elaborate on it, or make it shorter. And when Copilot, you can say, hey, give me the benefit statements and bullets, make it shorter, make it more casual, go back and forth, make it more formal, make it more casual. You can even turn it into a poem. But in any event, like Microsoft makes it so you can really push and pull with the prompting to get the email where you want it. For whatever design decision or feature design decision, Google made it so it's like it's a lot simpler. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner of UI, but you can't do as much, frankly. So in this one, I went shorten it, and it did a really nice job. If you go to the next slide, it shortened it. It gave me my like to-do list for the recipient of the email as a bulleted list, and that's pretty okay. But ultimately, I think this leaves a lot to be desired in terms of like the kind of rich functionality I think most people are going to be looking for, especially with something that's as personal as email you're sending. So Nathan, let me turn it back over to you and talk about how Copilot's operating, and then we'll wrap up with some formal thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to show you real quick. Copilot has the capability of doing email summary. And I know Gemini does too. Gemini actually, if you click on the Gemini button while you're in your inbox and all your emails are there, it'll pull up a summary just window, which is pretty helpful. But it can get confusing because you want to be requesting the summary when you want it. I find it a little more clear in Copilot. And so if you take a look, you know, I had a 3 email chain and I just said, hey, summarize it, Copilot. And one sentence at a time, it let me know what each of those emails were summarizing. So that's super helpful. Let's take a look at the creation though. And so I went in and I had an email chain where I'm booking an event venue, and I don't have the time to go back through every single email and say, okay, did we ask this question? Did we not ask this question? Do we have all the details we need? So I prompted Copilot and just said, hey there, Copilot, summarize and confirm everything we've covered in preparation for our event. And so it summarizes absolutely everything one line at a time, and then in it's confirming. you know, just look at the language here. Firstly, our meeting room booking is confirmed for 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Despite the center hours being 8:30 to 5 p.m., we appreciate your flexibility in accommodating our early start time. Boom. Oh, yeah. That is so important. They're being flexible. They're opening up early for us. I want to remind them that they said they were going to do that right before we go, because I don't want Ted showing up with the doors locked and him calling me on my cell phone saying, Nathan, what's up? They aren't letting me in. Do something about it. And I'll be like, Ted, you're in another state in a different time zone. I'm not there. It's their fault, you know? Pointing fingers. Hey, summarize, confirm. Make sure it goes smoothly for my man Ted here. Next, what about just, that was summarizing and drafting. What about just going from nothing? So here it is. I'm, you know, I'm contacting myself. That's one of my email addresses there. But I'm telling Copilot to create an email inviting this person to register for our next webinar about Copilot Studio and how you can create your own Copilot agent. Now, if you are a salesperson, you don't always want every email to just be like, hey, can we set up a meeting to talk about buying stuff? You want to say, hey, we have some great content for you to enjoy. And you want it to be fresh. You don't want to sound the same way every time. And so by having Copilot create the content for you in your email, you're saving a ton of time. Maybe you're not a copy expert and you don't want to take the time to write a couple paragraphs, and Copilot can do it for you. And Ted, to your point, here's the flexibility. Down at the bottom, do you want to keep it? Do you want to discard it? Do you want it to retry? Do you want to make it shorter? Do you want to make it longer? And there's a whole bunch of other options that Copilot puts at your disposal to immediately click, change tone, all that sort of stuff, so that you can be able to draft and send emails a lot quicker. And again, though, review it. Don't just have Copilot create it and then hit send without reading it. You want to make sure it still is approved by you. All right, Ted, over to you. Let's take a look at the verdict.
Yeah, so here's the verdict, folks. We're gonna do a verdict, and we're gonna wrap really quickly. So, you know, on meetings, transcriptions, recaps, we would say it's a dead even tie. On presentation creation, we would give Microsoft the edge by a large margin. Email assistant, I think, as we just saw, you know, Nathan showed that all the different flexibility in terms of using Outlook to respond and create emails. It's the Copilot implementation is far richer than what Google's done today with Gemini. In terms of the completeness of the productivity platform, what you'll see is that every single Microsoft product in Microsoft 365 has a Copilot. And that's clearly their strategy on everything. And so the completeness of the AI experience in app on the Microsoft platform is really awesome. Now, where does Google Gemini shine? As we mentioned, image and video creation. They just seem to have an edge over Microsoft in this area. And then the overall richness of the actual AI platform. So when you're in Gemini.google.com, or if you're in the AI Studio, which is the more like coding environment and the more advanced user environment, it's just a lot richer, and it's much more like ChatGPT and ChatGPT Premium in terms of its overall functionality. So we would give Gemini and Google the edge there. And then the fact that Google is including AI functionality and Gemini in Google Workspace without charging extra does really give Google a huge edge up on the value equation, because Microsoft is looking for a hefty premium to add AI to Microsoft 365 Premium. So that's our verdict. You know, Nathan, wrap us on our calls to action, and we'll get everybody out of here just a minute or two late. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it, everybody, for you being here, but we also want to see you in person. And so we have a couple of invites for you. If you're in these areas on these dates and you would like to join us, we're going to be doing Copilot Lunch and Learns, where we serve you lunch and we spend some time showing you a demo of Copilot from the front of the room. 3 different dates, 3 different cities in May. But if you want to get really into Copilot, we have 4-hour hands-on workshops. They are in person, and those are the 3 dates. We have fewer seats available for those because we actually sit you down at one of our demo machines. We have a lab environment that we put you into, and so you will actually be working the whole time, those whole 4 hours in the exercises with Copilot. If you're interested in that, we ask that you email me and I can get you signed up for those. All right, then also, if you want to talk to SnapTech IT expert today and talk about our risk assessment or our IT discovery calls, book an appointment right there. We'll get you in, we'll make sure you speak with one of our experts. And then of course, we always want to invite you back to join us for another webinar. Next month, we are going to be looking at Copilot Studio. We've dropped that word a couple of times, but we haven't really told you much about it. But it's all about creating your own custom Copilot agents. And so we're going to show you Copilot Studio, tell you a bit about it, and then show you exactly how to create a custom Copilot agent and what that means for your business. So you don't want to miss out. Get registered for that today. Ted, thank you so much for your expertise and for bringing all of this knowledge to our audience today. Really always appreciate co-hosting webinars with you.
All right. It was a lot of fun, Nathan. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you on next month's webinar. Take care.